Welcome back to another exciting episode of Aaron's Opinion, the podcast for blind people where we talk about critical issues in the blindness community. I'm Aaron Richmond. Tonight, like all other episodes, is of course copywritten by me, Aaron Richmond, and Aaron's Opinion. Thank you. Don't forget, comment below right here on this video, as so many of you like to do on YouTube. Also, listen on iTunes or wherever you get a podcast. Aaron's Opinion 6 at gmail.com. 1240 681 9869. Consider becoming a patron on my Patreon page. I'd appreciate the support. Let's jump right into it. It's always good, as we say in America, we have a saying, the early bird catches the worm. And our great friend in the podcasting community, Premit, joins us. A very good morning to you. It is first thing in the morning in India. Premit, welcome to Aaron's Opinion. Premit is the CEO and founder of Louis Voice. You're on. Go right ahead.
Thanks, Aaron. Wonderful to be here.
So let's get into it. Usually I start out by asking, so I will in this case, have you been blind your entire life? In my case, I was born blind with glaucoma and a congenital heart defect, among other issues. What about you, if you would like?
Yeah, so first half of my life, I had a normal vision and, dreams of education and working and going up the corporate ladder. So I'm a computer engineer, did my MBA, and then worked with global companies like Unilever, Motorola, Quest Diagnostics. And about 20 years back, I was given a drug which reacted on the retina, freakish reaction. But all the same, my vision sort of dropped quite a bit overnight. I could still get some corrections, so I continued working. And over the next, years, it just kept dropping. And about 8, 9 years back, I think there was another sharp fall, which of course doctors have no idea why it happened. And I couldn't read anything at all. Everything was wavy. And, I was just, at that time, I just lost confidence. I was just trying to, relive my earlier life, and all the devils in my mind were telling me I can't do this, can't do that. So I was just sitting at home for 2, 3 years doing nothing, just sort of, figuring out what to do next. And am I any good? Even those kind of questions came to me as my vision was dropping. And I was also, by the way, struggling to use at that time, the screen readers and trying to figure out because the gestures are completely different. So that has been really the background, and then I slowly got out of it, and then eventually got into building this app.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm very sorry to hear that. We've had on my show, Premit, I've had every story in the book from losing my vision. I've heard people say they lost their vision. I've had someone who was hit over the head with a brick. I had someone who shot their eye out with a thumbtack that you would put a poster on the wall. Yeah, there's a lot of interesting and very sad and very strange ways that you can lose your vision very quickly. So I'm saying it because for me, philosophically, I cannot understand what that must be like to lose vision because I've never done that. I've had the vision I've had because of 7 cornea transplants. It's that's something I struggle to understand. You say your vision, was dropping, as you said. Can you even express it in English? Like, can you even express like what it looks like to lose vision, or not really? Is it kind of hard to explain?
No, I can talk about it. I'll tell you, so like, for example, the first shock 20 years back, like I said, was,
Mm-hmm.
my vision had actually dropped dramatically. So when I went to doctors and they said, how come your vision dropped so much and you didn't realize it? Because one day I couldn't, see some kind of a game was going on. I couldn't see the score on the screen. So I just went to the
All
doctor
right.
and my vision actually dropped quite a bit. And that time it was, of course, a shock. And then, my condition is a very strange one because I got, classic symptoms of macular degeneration. There are
Mm.
pigments also. There is color blindness also. There is, inability to quickly adjust to light. So all kind of things are there. And doctors just couldn't, put a label to it, and they have no treatment. So I think what then happens is, and this is my experience, so like, for example, if I talk about this lost phase, when I suddenly, like I said, it dropped. So, so two things were happening. When there were these minor drops, I was constantly adjusting to life. So for example, my font size will become bigger, they'll become even bigger. Then I will, I'll started using a darker mode so that it will not strain my eyes so much. All of that I was doing. I may be taking larger printouts. So I was sort of adjusting at it as it went along. But what I realized, and I think those 2 3 years of lost phase, when I think the struggle is more in the mind. And in my case, if I were to now I'm being a wiser me, right? After so many years. So I can say that, I was trying to relive my life from the past. So I was not sort of trying to accept it and move forward. So the battle was more in the mind because the reality was there. Whether I can see, not see, it was all there. I had an option to say, okay, let me move on with life. Let me do, these are the things I'm good at. Maybe I can do this. But I was just living in the past, trying to, sort of work out in my mind, will I be able to do this job, that job, which I'd done in the past. So I think it's more of a battle in the mind, honestly, if you ask me, at least in my case.
I could not agree with you more. And I tell people that all the time, Prem. It's all, as we say, it's all in our head. It's what we
Absolutely.
it's what we make of it. So
Right.
okay, let's get into Louis Voice. So first of all, I think one of the most important or one of the important questions to think about before we design any product or any app, and I would ask you, Premit, what shortcut can you give someone? Can you give me with Louis Voice? What shortcut does it give?
Okay, you're saying in terms of what can the user do with it?
Correct. Because
Yeah,
basically, all great companies like yours or any other, famous company like Facebook or even what we're doing here on Zoom or YouTube, it creates a shortcut, meaning it makes something easier for someone else to do, and that's
absolutely.
why it's okay. Got it. So, like, what would be what is the shortcut that Louis Voice gives us, and exactly what does it do? How does it work? Go for it.
So the idea behind Louis voice control is ridiculously simple. So it's basically, can I with just voice commands control my popular apps, do each and everything within those apps, as well as control the critical features of the phone, all just with voice commands. Now, how it came to life, I don't know, I'll just talk about it because it brings alive the concept. So I talked about this lost phase. I was trying to come out of it, and it so happened that I had gone to meet a friend, and the friend took my phone and, being nice, he said, why don't I book Uber for you on your way back? So I gave him my destination. He put it into Uber. He said, these are the 3 4 options it's providing. I said, okay, take this one. Similarly, he told me the rides available, the fare, I said, okay, pick up this particular ride. He confirmed how am I going to pay to Uber, and then he reconfirmed everything, and he finally booked it for me. He even helped me call the driver. And when I was coming back on the way in Uber, suddenly, there's something magical about that experience. It was, of course, extremely convenient. But, as a visually impaired, I've always wanted to be independent, to be in control. And I just felt that, here, while my friend was helping me, I was the one in charge. I was the one making all the decisions. I never felt out of control. And then a thought just stuck. It was like a eureka thing. And I said, okay, what if I can build a virtual friend right there on the phone screen, which does exactly what my friend was doing. So he was doing everything within Uber. With his help, I could do it. There was continuous voice interaction, which was happening. And of course, I was in charge all through. So that's really the whole concept of Louis voice control. Every time I'm confused which way I should go, I just close my eyes and say, okay, if my friend was sitting across the table, what will he say? What will he do? So this is exactly how we have tried to build Louis voice control.
How is excellent for one thing, perfect, absolutely perfect for another. So how is this different from Siri?
Okay, a great question. So yes, so there are fundamental differences when I compare it with Siri, Google Assistant, or Alexa, the three big voice assistants. See, to begin with, Louis is made keeping a blind person in mind. So the core use case is of a blind person who cannot see the screen at all. So that's the starting point. Now, the difference number one,
Okay,
like I
so
said, is
right, yeah. So I think for the listener, just so I can help to kind of strengthen to strengthen your arguments as you make them. Of course, I think one of the things that you said that's really important is you designed the app from the ground up for someone who already has the screen curtain on and is either has a screen curtain on or is not, or does not have any usable vision at all. That's the first factor. It's already built for
Absolutely.
blind people. That's critical. And the second thing, go right
Absolutely.
ahead.
Secondly, now, like the Uber example that I gave. So the whole thought was that, look, whichever app that Louis voice enables, the user should be able to do each and everything within that app with just voice commands, just like any sighted person. So therefore, what it meant, and the comparison, let's say with a Siri or a Alexa, is that they will do only two or three things, if at all, within an app. Right now, this one, like for example, I gave the example of Uber. Each and everything within Uber, including multiple stop booking, being able to even change your destination, post your booking, being able to share your trip with friend and family, and then of course the booking process, and being completely, like I said, being completely in charge. So there is a fundamental difference in that. So whichever voice, whichever app Louis takes, everything can be done with voice commands.
Cool. Okay.
Okay, now the other difference is now to be able to do it. Now imagine, my friend was helping me book Uber. Now imagine how difficult it would have been if I had told him book Uber, and he would have said, "Okay, give me your destination." I would have given it, and it would have gone silent. Now this is what Siri, Alexa, so they don't have continuous voice interaction. To be able to do an app fully, you need continuous voice interaction. And right now, Aaron, the way we are talking, I think the human need is for continuous voice interaction, not to give one command, do something, and then again go silent, which is what happens with the voice assistants. So it does continuous interaction, and like we said, because it's built for a blind, there is a certain kind of handholding. If somebody is not able to see the screen, there's a very different kind of handholding, user experience that one requires. So that thought has gone into it. So these are the big differences to my mind.
Excellent. Very, very good. Okay. So, can you, obviously, without unplugging our Zoom, can you demonstrate the key features of this app?
Okay, so I actually didn't realize. Can I just bring my phone and
Please do.
start it
Yes,
off?
please. Yes,
Okay,
please.
just give me a second.
Okay.
Yeah, Aaron, you're there?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll start. There are various ways to start off, Louis. So one of them is by saying, "Hey, Louis."
Just say talk fast and I will increase my speech rate. Which app would you like to open?
Uber.
Opening Uber. Uber is loading.
So it's right now opening Uber, and Uber, I use an old phone deliberately. So it takes a while to open.
Uber automate safer. Over 1 lakh Uber safety screens being
Okay,
installed.
one moment. Just give me a moment. There is actually, yeah.
Quick step at a glance. Uber double tap to activate. Uber dismiss. Louis.
Hey, Louis.
Since Louis works on voice commands, only a 2-finger touch. Just Louis settings double tap to activate.
Hey, Louis.
Hello PSA commands, and I will speak all the applicable commands for that screen. Which app would you like to open?
Book Uber for Hotel Radisson.
Opening Uber. Uber is loading. Just a moment. Setting it up. Screen is loading. Getting things ready. Please wait. Searching for destination. Hotel Tradition Inn, Kathmandu, Nepal. Hotel Tradition Inn, Spa Pvt Limited, South County Marg.
Hotel Radisson.
Sorry, could not get that. Please choose one of these options. Select.
Search Hotel Radisson.
Say or spell location to search.
Hotel Radisson.
Got it. Hotel Radisson. Radisson Hotel Dura Gramsona Road City Center, Maine. Radisson Hotel Dura.
Select.
Let's select a ride leading rides from low to high fare. Touch with two finger to select ride. Moto 1, 26.00, 659. Affordable motorcycle rides. Connect. Send items. Send packages to friends and family. 36.00. Uber Auto 3, 45. Uber Auto.
Uber Go.
Uber Go 4, 65.00, 653. Affordable. Compact rides. Select. Next. Previous. Marcus Favorite and more options.
Select.
Your pickup location is Rahija Ravanta. Your destination is Radisson Hotel Dura Gramsona Road City Center. Payment method. Who to go with. Uber Go. Confirm or edit.
Confirm. So, Aaron, I am booking, but I'll also do a quick cancellation.
Please wait. Requesting a ride for you.
It's early morning, so sometimes getting a ride may take time.
Requesting a ride for you. Requesting ride. Requesting a ride for you. Touch with two finger to cancel booking. Driver profile, 4.7 star rating, HR74A 6370, Maruti Suzuki Swift Desire, your driver must act, your driver must act. Call or message driver, share or cancel ride, go silent or more options.
Cancel.
Cancel trip? Yes or no?
Yes.
Booking cancelled.
Okay, so I'm out of it now.
Of course. Here's
Okay, so
why-
the reason when I started, Uber seems to have made some change. So there was a sudden different screen. So that's why. So what we have to sometimes do is just skip those screens quickly.
It was incredible. I clearly see the difference. It's a lot more responsive. That was like having a conversation with a person rather than having a conversation with a bot. Yeah, I definitely felt the reality of the conversation and the responsiveness and the even though she misunderstood you a couple of times, a little bit, but as you can tell, I kind of have I have my I have a very distinctive voice too. So sometimes apps or things like misunderstand me when I talk, and so that is totally fine. I am still incredibly impressed with
Actually, in
that
this
level of
case, the
response.
more so it happened because to make sure that the sound from Louis is going into the microphone, so I was holding it at a very odd angle. So
Yeah.
because so the speaker and the microphone are in the same place. So so the speaker sound was going in, but my voice was coming at a very odd angle. So probably that's why it was not picking up.
I got it. We heard it. It was crystal clear here, and I
Yeah.
completely understood that transaction. That was perfect. So, all right. Well, how did you go through the steps to actually set this all up and like actually write the software and establish its company? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So this is like 4 years back, and I think I must narrate another important point since you spoke about building apps and so on. So there was the whole thing had started when I'd actually met a top executive of a venture capital company, Sequoia Capital. I think they are big in US and they are also pretty big in India. And this gentleman, out of the blue, he heard my story. I was talking about which apps I use, and he said, "Why don't you build apps for people like you? And it's going to be useful for others as well." And I mean, at that time, I was consulting and starting, building an app is not something easy to get into. So anyway, we were interacting, and and then one fine day, about 3 months down the line, he said, "Look, I have heard enough about criticism of the current solutions, scripts and cries. He said, "Why don't you tell me what is good? Put it in a half page." And I can tell you that's very, very difficult. So it's easy to criticize. It's far more difficult to define what is good or what should be built. So having started from there and then, going through this experience, I think I was able to define, because that vision sometimes is very, very important. And it just so happened that at that time I used Alexa, Google Assistant, Siri quite a bit, just trying to understand, what do they do, and, what are they good at, etc. And I had a clear vision in my mind. It was the strange thing was, Aaron, you won't believe it, that every time I'll close my eyes,
Actually,
I
I
could
will.
actually feel.
I believe it. I've heard everything. I will believe it. Yes, go ahead.
I could close my eyes and I could see the video of the app playing. I could hear the sounds.
Oh,
So every time, so
wonderful.
initially, I whosoever I went to, everybody said impossible, cannot be done, right? Because if these big guys have not been able to do, there is no way you can ever do it. Everybody told me no. But I sort of kept persisting, and because I had this clear vision, it really helped me. Because a lot of times people will say, "I can do this," I'll say, "No, do this. I want it exactly like this," and I could actually define in detail what exactly I needed. So I think we basically worked on certain prototypes, etc. 2.5 years back, we formally started the company. It's like a tech startup. I call it more of a social venture, and we initially recruited a few developers. Fortunately, the person who gave me the idea has also helped me in terms of raising funding. So today we have investors in India, US, and Singapore. And most of them are socially conscious as well. So they recognize there's a good tech, but then how do we put it to good use across the world? So this is how we started. We had our ups and downs. There were a lot of times when we ran out of money. First 5-6 months, we actually could write a single line of code because we were just still struggling with the whole thing. We knew that certain milestones we needed to reach. So it has been a story of ups and downs. And now it's only in the last 6-7 weeks that we have started reaching out to the world. We are telling people about the app. And the whole idea is to build a base and get as much user feedback, which will help us improve Louis further.
Outstanding. So good. So good. All right. All right. And what steps did you need to take to like open a business in India? How did that go? Like how does that work, opening a business in India?
Oh, okay. So today it's actually pretty easy to do it. So it takes you maybe about a week at best to start off a company. And I think getting funding is, of course, like universally the more difficult part. So I think as a startup today, the environment is far more friendly. You can start it off pretty early. But like I said, finding supporters, finding investors, finding the right, I would say, developers, the right kind of resources, all that becomes very, very important. And just to tell you, and this will, so I was telling you about how we actually built it for a blind. I had to buy blindfolds. You won't believe it, for the developers, because there were a lot of times they'll look at the screen because they were sighted. They'll look at the screen and say, "Oh, it's looking fine to me. What's wrong?" So I'll say, "Okay, put on the blindfold. Now try and do the same thing." Then you will see, and then of course, slowly the team started picking up, and then gradually we added more visually impaired people to the team as well. So, that whole sense of who we are building it for. So right now, for example, in our team of 13, there are 4 visually impaired, including me. So I think the whole team is therefore infused with the understanding of what it takes to build something for a blind person.
Yeah, I could not agree more, and I think that's really the best way to build a product for blind people is to ensure that blind people are the ones who are actually building it and designing it the entire time. Yeah. So, um, and then when did this like? Is this like an app? So how would someone actually get this software on their phone, and what are all of the devices that this software runs on?
Okay, so we started off with Android and in English. So currently it's available on Play Store. It will work on all Android versions upwards of Android 7. Also, before you ask me, I'll answer it. We are also started doing technical feasibility for iOS.
iOS, yes.
Because I realized you have an iPhone. So the technical feasibility we have just started. And like I said, even Android was very, very complex and took quite a lot of doing. So I guess the same process we'll have to probably go through for iOS as well. But I'm very hopeful by the second half of this year, we should have the answer, and we should have it hopefully out for iPhones as well.
Excellent. Excellent. Yeah. So, by the way, my second language is French. I love talking about languages. Actually,
Right.
I'm an English teacher when I'm not podcasting. Working on this show that I have here. In India, you have hundreds of languages. So, how many are you going to do? All the main languages in India? Like, how are you going to decide what languages you're going
Okay.
to incorporate? Yeah.
Okay, great question. So I think this is being looked more as a global project, right, and not for a specific geography.
Sure.
So
Sure.
the way we are approaching it. So even if you just saw, so for example, we still have a lot of users who don't understand, who know very minimal English. Even they are able to use it because if you see a lot of the commands being given, book Uber, select, confirm, reply, forward, delete, play. If
One
you're,
word, we would say it's
correct.
a lot of one word, very short, one very direct interaction, a lot of one word answers. Yeah.
Correct. So you don't need to say, "Oh, I am feeling like I want to go to, Hotel Radisson," or you don't have to do that. So you can just be very, very specific. The other thing, what we have done is for the same word or two words, all the possible, other things that you may say. Right. For example, instead of confirm, you may say okay. You may say yes. Right. So it takes all of that, right? It doesn't sort of, so there is no learning curve. So there is nothing like, a list of commands that you have to know about this. So anyway, now coming to your primary question. So in any case, I think language support will be needed. So what we plan to do is that in the next phase, we want to do two more languages, starting with Spanish in a global sense and Hindi in a local sense. Because right now, actually, I have a lot of demand for right from US downwards. US, Mexico, South America. I already have 4 volunteers in Colombia, Mexico, and US who want to help us translate the app into Spanish. So that will be something we want to do, and gradually do one language after another. We're trying to work out, that the another language should be a simple process as opposed to completely writing out the app once again. So that's something we are right now, like you talked about the shortcut. So I'm trying to figure out an easy way of doing it.
Right. Or trying to incorporate the languages that are most commonly used, would be commonly used on this app.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe French eventually, Arabic definitely at some point. Russian, just based on the number of speakers, there's a lot of people who speak those languages. So yeah, definitely. Mm-hmm. Uh,
Yeah, absolutely. And the
mhm.
trick is to, work out a way, that one can quickly do those translations as well as, it works well. So, it won't be any good if it works well in English, but then struggles in Spanish, right? So those are the things we're trying to figure out right now.
So take the Spanish example, right? Let's say
Yeah,
you have a user tester, basically a beta tester or a developer in Bogota, let's say.
right.
Let's imagine how long or how I know it's a lot of work. That's not really the question. How much manpower and heavy lifting does it take before they can send you back an email saying, okay, Prem, this app definitely works in Spanish and it's up to industry standards. What is the threshold for knowing, like, okay, good, like it works? What is that threshold?
Okay, so there are, Aaron, I'll tell you how this, the philosophy behind building Louis, and I think it's very important. So most of the time, we start off by saying, we don't reinvent the wheel. So we go around looking for existing technologies, what all is available. So if you ask me in Louis, what we are really good at is leveraging existing technology so that we can actually make it work for blind and visually impaired. So that's really what we do. So similarly, when it comes to language, there are a couple of approaches we are trying to take. Again, leveraging on a lot of existing technology. I'll give you an example. Now, if there are certain specific word matching that I got to do, I might be able to use translation technology, which is getting better and better by the day. Because by the way, you saw there is anyway a lot of speech to text which is being done, and there are a whole lot of technologies available across languages. So my sense is that it may take us no more than 6 to 8 weeks to actually have a prototype out, and then of like you said, give it to a user in who knows his Spanish, and who then sort of plays around with it and comes back and we keep refining it, and that's how actually we have built this app. So even today we are at a stage where we are just refining, and keep improving it. We get a lot of ideas, etc. So my sense is in 3 months time we should be able to handle a language, and as we go forward we probably will get better and better at it, because then we'll know the nuts and bolts. But like I said, because there are these basic commands that are being mashed, because what the app says is the easy part. Being able to understand the user and being able to perform that action is really what is very critical. So 3 months is right now what I think it will take.
About 3 months. It's a fair bit of work when you think about it. So that's a pretty long time of tests. So that's a lot of testing, a lot of repetitive work over 3 months to get it just right. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I'm talking of right, working well, as opposed to, you can always push out something in 3 weeks time. But because see, the other sense, as a visually impaired, I also feel that, look, there has to be a minimum stability of the app. The ease of usage has to be at a certain level, being able to do things, in terms of effectiveness. So all that is, that whole package needs to be at a certain level before it is given out to the visually impaired user.
Sure, definitely. Okay, well, so for my Android users out there, which I know there's got to be some. How would they go? And they're in the United States, so how would they go about setting this app up? And of course, what is the pricing model, and like how much does all this cost for someone?
Okay, so right now it's free, and it's going to remain free for a while, until we stabilize and we do languages, etc. So currently it's available on Google Play Store, and the app is called Louie Voice Control. Louie is spelled out as Louie, and it can be downloaded by anybody. It's completely the setup. So Aaron, just to, because it's a voice app, so there is only one screen that Louie has, which is the Louie setting screen. Other than that, it's all voice interaction. So what we do is the early setup process is actually a multiple set of screens, which is more like a setup come tutorial to the user. And basically it gets all the permissions, and it's of course completely accessible with a screen reader. And what it basically does is that it allows users, for example, you can set up any TTS engine, so any voice of your preference will work with Louie. So we don't force the user. By the way, it also works with and without the screen reader. And then that is something very important, because if you take, let's say, the 300 million visually impaired, I mean, there are people in early stages, who use magnifiers but don't use screen readers. So the Louie works with and without the screen reader. It automatically configures itself. And then there are a whole lot of tutorials. There are within the app something like 90 how-to videos, which right from how to book Uber to how to use WhatsApp, YouTube, manage contacts, phone calling, text messaging, settings of the phone. I mean, there are a whole lot of things we are working on. So it's all provided within the app.
So good, so good. And you spell it Louie.
Correct.
Hmm. So, as in, why do you? I mean, I'm just purely curious. Why is it spelled that way? What does that name mean to you? I was thinking,
Actually,
in other words, I was thinking, I'm thinking of, Louis as in Louis Braille.
correct. You're absolutely right. So the inspiration is from Louis Braille, absolutely, no doubt. And that's because we were looking for a short and sweet name. And so getting something which can work in Russia, which can work in Colombia. So all that is. So sorry, my screen reader went off with a notification. Yeah,
No worries.
Yeah. So basically, the sound of Louis was great, and then it just happened that this particular spelling, because we actually checked it around both on App Store as well as on Play Store, and we just wanted to be sure that we are not sort of getting onto somebody's foot, and tomorrow have a problem that somebody else is using my brand name, this, that, etc. So that's the only reason why this particular spelling came up like that.
Very Louie. Very
Yeah,
Ouie.
by the way,
That's
in Play Store, if you do a voice search and say Louis Voice Control, you get it right there.
I see. I see.
So I did that also. So, go to an app store and, just do their voice search
Mhm.
and see, does it come up when I say Louis voice control? So, because that's probably the most important consideration for a visually impaired, right?
That's true. That's true. Yes, definitely. And okay, well they would just go to the Google Play and they would just download it and then I guess as we say just off to the races then. They would be able to use it then. Have you found I guess have you encountered any one particular app that never works with Louis that you're working on getting it to work better or somewhat with Louis? Have you ever had any of those types of problems?
Okay, there is one app which is challenging, but which you are doing right now. So the app is Instagram, right? And I know a lot of visually impaired people don't use it because there is this
And
thought in the
I do
mind that,
not, yeah, I do not have
correct,
Instagram. This is not
correct.
Instagram.
Now, something interesting that we have been working on, because right now we support WhatsApp, which is like Messenger.
Mhm.
And there people tend to send you images and, audios, videos, and so on. Somebody recently sent me, New Year greetings as images, and not one. In fact, I got 5 of them. Now, what do I do with an image? Right.
Not just one, but 5. One just one just wasn't enough. They had to make sure you saw the first one.
Yeah. So imagine. So I got the team working on it, and I said, what if we can crack these images? We can, read out the text on the image.
Yeah.
We can even describe the image and in a seamless way. See, that's important. So, like, for example, what Louis, just the way Louis reads out a text message, that's easy. Louis can play out an audio message, can play the video. How about, in the same seamless way, just tell a user, okay, you got an image, you want to read it. User says yes. Okay, this is the text on the image. This is the description of the image. So we actually have been able to crack it. In fact, this version is right now being tested. So, like I said, I'm solving my own problem. So I'm one of the biggest testers as well as critics of the app. So having done that, we said, okay, what if we can take up a challenge? And which is where, Instagram came in. Because now we think we should be able to completely make it accessible with voice commands for all visually impaired users. So this is one app which I would really like to do and more as a challenge, because I think if we can crack this one, then I think no other app we would ever feel worried about.
Okay. The problem is they're always developing new apps. I'm sure one will eventually come up that will at first stump Louis there for
no, of course there can be, but there are various technologies we have. So by the way, just to tell you, so Louis works on top of the screen. Like I said, see, my original thought was a virtual friend right there on the phone screen. So if you see, when I was booking Uber app was actually opening up. So it was actually going from screen to screen. So it was like almost like a sighted person using the app, but instead of sighted person, clicking on something, the voice commands Louis was taking and clicking on those buttons. So what we are able to do is we are able to work on top of the screen as well as under the screen, under the hood, so to say. So that gives us immense flexibility to be able to do things. So I'm very hopeful. I'm not going to say that, look, we'll be able to do all apps, but I think all the popular apps for sure, we would be able to do it. And just to tell you which are the next apps we are working on. So a lot of user feedback has been coming on. So for example, Instagram, Messenger, Facebook. Then we want to do a food ordering app, an e-commerce app. Then even things like Google search, being able to browse around in your, in your browser, being able to read articles. There are a lot of attachments that come through Messenger or through WhatsApp. And sometimes, what can be tricky is a scanned PDF document, right? It's a scanned document.
Oh, yeah.
So being able to read that as well, or any document, Word document, PDF document. So I think there are a whole series of things that we got to do. So there's a lot of work, cut out for us.
Awesome. Yeah, I've traveled all over the world, Premit. I've never been to India. You have a wonderful country. In general, what is a major city that is near you that I would know?
Oh, that's Delhi, the capital.
Oh, okay. So you're near the capital. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just 20 miles away. But it's like a suburban town, but this town is far more vibrant because it's a newly built town, and it's a hub for all technology companies as well as for all multinationals. So it's a very vibrant place. And in fact, one of the, there are top 2, 3 places in India where you got to do a startup. So this is one of them.
Right. Sure. Sure. Excellent. Cool. Cool. Have you been to the States before?
Yeah, I have been multiple times. So when I was with Unilever, I was actually handling a business which we were running in US, but I was handling it out of India. So every couple of months, I'll be there for 10, 15 days. I was mostly on the East Coast. So I'm very, very familiar with New York and New Jersey,
Oh
these
boy.
areas.
I see. Well, it's really cool. And where else in the world have you traveled to?
Oh, I have traveled quite a bit. So because actually it was in this job where basically with Unilever, though I subsequently traveled with Motorola and Quest Diagnostics as well. So I must have traveled to about 40, 50 countries across the world, quite a few of them.
I see. I see. What was your most unexpected country that you've been to?
Okay, that was Saudi Arabia, honestly. So that country blows you up. So, so what had happened, I was coming from Malaysia, landed up in Jeddah. And, when I got my bags, my bag was completely opened. So the locks were broken. Everything had been searched. And then by the time I was just, putting my things together, they got me into another room. And they had seen some CDs because that time, if you remember, we used to have these handy cams, right? Handy cams with the, where things would get recorded on a CD. So on one CD, I had written Malaysia because I was coming from there. This was a business trip. So they put on the CD. They wanted to see what's happening, and so that whole I think must have taken me hours to get out of the airport. So that was something, and I think it's a strange country, honestly. I mean, the whole, the whole culture was very, very different from the rest of the world.
Interesting. Cool. Cool. And when you are not working, what are some activities that you do, in your free time? What are your pastimes?
Oh, okay. So I actually get up early. So I get up at 5 a.m. in the
I
morning.
I noticed, can see you get up just so you can come on to podcasts like this one. I know.
Okay, my true inspiration for getting early is because everything is quiet. I like to meditate, and then I would like to do some intense exercise. That's very important. So I think combination of both keeps one fresh through the day, and I think a lot of creative ideas actually come through in the morning. And then I love to have a relaxed breakfast, sit in the garden, be as close to nature, chirping of birds, etc. All that I really find amazing. And I am a voracious reader. No, I shouldn't say reader, a hearer of audiobooks. I am really into, and podcasts. So of course, anything which is audio. So whether podcast, YouTube, or audiobooks, that I think takes a lot of my time. And I hear a lot of genres, right from spirituality to non-fiction, business books, economics, all kind of things, just to keep myself abreast of what's happening in the world.
Excellent. So good. So good. Yeah.
Do not disturb. Calls and notifications will be silenced until do not disturb.
Well, that's really all of that is really, really excellent. So, what I mean, if someone is listening to this episode and they want to express an interest in Louis, whether they are blind or sighted, or if they just want to help you and just want to connect with you, how would they, go about doing that?
Yeah, great. In fact, right now, I think this app in the last 6 months is just being driven by feedback, ideas, suggestions, criticism. It really helps me. So I can be reached out. I'll give you my email ID. It is Pramit, Pramit, at louisvoice.com. And like we said, Louis is spelled out as Louie. So that's the easiest way to reach out to me. And what I'll do, Aaron, is I'll also share all my social media handles. I am sort of, across. But and I love to hear back. So even this email ID, I get the response directly, and I love to talk to users. By the way, my WhatsApp number, Skype number is also freely available. My Skype is Pramit with a space and then Louie, Louie. So I do get every day a lot of users directly reaching out, and it really helps because one can really understand their experience, firsthand, and that really helps improve the app.
Excellent. Great. And so if they go to, so if someone wants to help your company, if they go to the website, can they find ways of like helping out and like helping you guys, whether it be development, whether it be that they just have an interest? Are there other ways for people to help Louis? What do you think?
Yeah, so our website is www.louisvoice.com. Now, I have not yet implemented it, Aaron, but I have received a couple of phone calls, one from US, one from UK, saying I want to donate. How can I do that? So I'm
Well,
still to sort of.
to save you the time of wondering if that's what I was secretly asking. Yes, I was secretly asking how, because sometimes in the podcast community, only kind people and successful people like us listen or participate in podcasting. So usually that's actually a really good time and a really good place to say, here's how you can donate, because that's usually the crowd that's willing to donate. So how would they do that?
Oh, no, so I still have to set it up. Uh, the
Okay,
whole donation.
okay. So if you want to donate, I tell you what. How about you email Premit and he'll get back to you on a way that you could do that properly in the
Yes.
future, hopefully, right?
I think you mentioned Patreon. I think I heard you say that. So maybe, yeah.
I'm sorry. I mentioned what? I did not understand. I mentioned
No,
what?
you in the beginning you had spoken about patrons donation, and you I think mentioned a site called Patreon or Patreon or something like that.
Ah, yes, yes, Patreon. Are you
Yeah,
on Patreon?
Patreon.
Are you on
No, I
Patreon?
don't know that. So maybe that is that a way?
Well, here's what Patreon is. Patreon is basically a way for content creators
Okay,
to uh, basically collect monthly donations and pledges so that people can support Aaron's opinion, let's say. And
right.
by the way, thank you to the people who have supported me. And like the way it works is people send in their pledges, and then you just then you have like an account balance. It's like an account. It is a lawful way of you taking your supporters' money and putting it into your hands so that you can keep producing Louis or keep producing a product. Does it specifically work for what you do? I'm not sure.
Right.
Do you do work? Do you network and work with like Indiegogo, for instance? I know you're past that stage, but have you been in contact with the team at Indiegogo?
No, no. They are what?
Crowdfunding
Okay,
for, yeah, like people who like are
okay,
developing companies and inventing things. You sign up, but I don't know, they might be able to help you guys. So I would say, I mean, there's a lot of ways, but Indiegogo might be one, Patreon might be
right,
one, setting up some sort of
right.
a PayPal button. Those are all
Yes.
ways that you could do that. But definitely, people want to know about that. Yeah, I don't see, Premit, I mean, generally, Patreon is for podcasting and YouTube's, provided that you tell Patreon that you're a company that builds an app for blind people like Louis. I don't necessarily know one way or the other if they would have any objection one way or the other, but it's worth a try.
Right,
Yeah, Patreon is really easy. So, well,
right.
set one up and see what happens, I guess.
Correct,
Who
correct.
knows? Who knows?
So right
Yeah.
now,
Hmm.
our money essentially comes from angel investors who invest in the company. And
Hmm.
like I said, there are about 12, 13 of them. By the way, two of them are visually impaired as well. But yeah, this is one channel, crowdfunding, donations, I think is something that we would like to open up. So I'll certainly take your suggestions there.
Let's see. Yeah, if someone, maybe you at home, if someone specifically comes to me and has a good suggestion, yeah, guys, if you have a good suggestion on helping Louis or Premit establish an appropriate donation system, comment below. Let us know, because we both would like. Premit would certainly need that info. So good to know. And of course, you've been a magnificent guest. Um, and when are you going to start a podcast? Because I love hearing you speak. You have a beautiful voice. I love your voice. When are you going to start a podcast?
Oh, by the way, I must talk about this other interest. So if at all I do a podcast, it will be about how you can reverse your diabetes. So
So
just
good.
to tell you, I was telling about
Please,
you about these
please
corporates.
start.
I was used to lead a very, very bad lifestyle. And suddenly my diabetes level, like my sugar levels are very, very high.
Oh, my
And
friend,
this
I'm
was
so.
in early 2009. So now this
Mhm.
is 11 years. I overnight changed my lifestyle. Today I'm not even a diabetic, took no medicines,
Wow,
completely
wow.
came out of
So
it.
good,
So I
man.
got a
So
YouTube
good.
video. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, for some reason I thought that when people had diabetes, I misunderstood. I thought that it was something that you could manage well, but something that you always had. I didn't know that it was possible to completely eradicate your bloodstream, your system of that situation. That's so good. That's really fascinating. Yes.
yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, actually, because the doctors would make us believe that you need to now manage it. Nobody talks about being able to fix it, from the root itself. But it's easy to do actually. It's not very difficult. I've been doing this for last 5 6 years. The YouTube video, and a lot of people across the world get in touch. So this would be something which is close to my heart. Apart from, of course, building Louis and whatever I can do in terms of solving my own problem with visual impairment and hopefully helping others.
I'm so glad to hear it. That's awesome. And I think the topic of health is really critical, but diabetes affects people in all parts of the world. So if you want to get into that niche of podcasting, you are more than welcome. That is definitely needed. Well, that's
Yeah,
so
but right
good.
now Louis takes all the time in the world, so it's like a completely full-time
Yeah, no,
24
I
by
know,
7
but
project.
you with podcasting, you can spread the word and help a lot of people.
Right, right,
My
right.
ability to help, my ability to help you, I'm going to say it in a minute, but it's true. My ability just to help you, Pramit, by giving you the privilege to come here and talk is it's not just helping one person, it's helping millions of other people that now know about your product and know about the successful work that you've done. So it truly is helping one person today, helping a million tomorrow. And I
Right.
believe that 1,000%.
Yeah,
Well,
I
okay,
agree
that,
with you.
well, well, good. So, it comes to the end of my show. I've asked all my questions except for this one. So I ask every guest. So, you don't really know me at all. You might have heard of me vaguely in the community, but outside of it, you don't know me. If there's one question you want to ask to really make me sweat, to really see if I'm worth my salt, what's the question?
No, honestly, why will I put you in a spot? Because you're doing so beautiful, wonderful work, and honestly, I mean, I feel so good about you. But I would just like to you to just tell me about how you got into this space because you said you are a teacher as well.
Yeah.
So I think somewhere you want to tell people, teach people, spread the word, right? Probably because that's you're really doing some good, great, noble work.
That response was so adorable and so beautiful. Why should I answer? Because you were far more eloquent than the answer that I would give you. I tremendously appreciate that. It was so sweet and so kind. Tremendously appreciate it. So what was happening was about a year ago. I was listening to podcasts for the blindness community. You might have listened to them too, and I
Right.
noticed that they just were not really accessible, and they weren't really, in my opinion, they were not really approachable. So the shortcut that I wanted to create was I wanted to create a podcast where blind people from every walk of life in every country, and I've had all continents on this podcast, trust me.
Right.
I wanted to create a place where people, blind and sighted, whoever you are, can just come to me and say, hey, Aaron, here's information that your listeners would love to learn from. Let's create a podcast and have a great conversation. So that's why I started this. And that's my mission at Aaron's Opinion, to help one person today, help a million tomorrow. And that's why I do this, because it's a way for me to contribute. It's a way for me to help. It's a great hobby. And I enjoy recording every episode of this thing. It's just so much fun for me to be able to learn about blind people from all over the globe. It's fascinating. Um, and know that you haven't gotten rid of me that easily. You'll be added to my private group, and everybody will know about Louis Voice, and I'll make sure to include you in everything that we do here on Aaron's Opinion, because that's another one of my goals, to make Aaron's Opinion the most approachable and most positive podcast on iTunes or on YouTube, wherever you like. So there you go.
Wonderful sentiments. And by the way, podcasts actually tend to go all over. I use Podbean, another app, so it is there
Mm-hmm.
as well. So I think you may be uploading it somewhere, but I think it reaches out to many more apps and many more people.
That's the magic, right? You don't know how many people you're reaching when you produce great
Right.
content. You have all sorts of
Absolutely.
silent people who are absorbing this content and are loving it, probably. All right. Well, in that case, guys, if you have any questions or suggestions for Premit, please comment below. Or, of course, Aaron's Opinion 6 at gmail.com, 1240-681-9869. Follow on Facebook, follow on Twitter, comment below on YouTube. Even consider becoming a patron on my Patreon. Yeah, you're right. I said at the beginning. There it is now. Follow on everything like that. Okay. And for you, Primit, I wish you the very best of health. And to the world, everybody else around the world, very best of health to everybody out there. And Primit, you have a wonderful rest of your morning in India. From my side of the universe, everybody have a very good evening. Or, of course, since you're listening to this from anywhere in the world, have a good morning, day, afternoon, or middle of the night. Thanks so much, everybody. Help one person today. Help 1 million people tomorrow.